It's time for Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. And now your host, J. Bryan Nugen, estate planning and elder law attorney.
Good morning, and welcome to Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. I'm attorney J. Bryan Nugen, founder of Nugen Law, and your host for our program. The purpose of our show is to have weekly, in-depth conversations about matters relevant to folks as they walk down the path of successful aging. Our listeners will learn what it is to age with dignity and how best to protect their money. I've been practicing law for 3 decades. I'm licensed to practice in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida, and actively represent clients in all 4 states. My practice, the attorneys, and our interdisciplinary team of professionals who practice with me concentrate on working with clients in estate planning and elder law, and areas related to them, such as protecting money from nursing home stays, securing benefits from programs like Medicaid and the VA, geriatric care coordination through our elder care coordinator, state and trust administration, guardianships, planning for those with special needs. Nugen Law sees clients in many stages of life, but commonly we have folks reaching out when they or a loved one are showing signs of needing help. Those signs may include a chronic ailment or progressive decline, before, during, or after a hospitalization, an instance of incapacity, caregiver burnout, stress on family members due to some or all of those instances I just mentioned. So as a reminder, Nugen Law represents clients in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. If you hear something in today's broadcast which resonates with you, an area in which we may be able to help, please call Nugen Law at 260-925-3738, speak with one of our intake specialists, and schedule a meeting for either our Fort Wayne or Auburn locations. You're also encouraged to see us online at www.nugenlaw.com. To our listeners, Nugen Law will be presenting a free seminar on August 15th between 1 and 5 p.m. in Fort Wayne, with a deeper dive into how you can be sure to preserve your dignity, protect your money, with topics like asset preservation, securing benefits to provide payment for your care as you age, care management as you age, estate planning, and elder law. We'll also have several vendors at that event, including our speaker today, our guest today on the show. She'll be present as well. But give us a call, 260-925-3738, 260-925-3738 to reserve your spot. One of our services that the Nugen Law Elder Care Coordinator performs for our clients is putting them in touch with local organizations and providers that will be of benefit to them and their families. One such organization is the hospice agency Heart to Heart. Our studio guest is Diana Moor, the community education representative from Heart to Heart. Diana has been helping to guide seniors and their families for the past 14 years. She has experience in skilled nursing, assisted living, independent living communities, having to care for her own mother as she's aging. She can relate to the stress and emotions involved with making those tough decisions. Hospice has always had a special place in her heart. Now she's honored to help people navigate their end-of-life journey with Heart to Heart Hospice. Diana, welcome to Preserve Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. When I'm working with clients and I mention they're using a hospice agency, I often see a furrowed brow or a look of misunderstanding. Hospice is a wonderful program which needs to be better understood. So let's start with a definition. What is hospice?
Yes. Well, first of all, Bryan, thank you for having me.
Yeah, my
I'm
pleasure.
just really excited to be here.
Good.
Yeah, so with hospice, like you just said, it's one of those topics that people don't really want to talk about, but it's just such an underutilized service. So big picture, broad definition is that you have to have a diagnosis with a terminal diagnosis. And with that terminal diagnosis, your physician or our physician has to feel like if your disease continues down its natural path, you have about 6 months or less to live. That is the broad term.
So this is when I say that to people, and I'm giving that broad definition. They're saying, "Well, this is not going to happen within 6 months. This isn't."
Right.
So
Right.
we should know that if death does not happen, someone doesn't
Yes.
pass within 6 months,
Yes.
are they out of the program? Are they kicked out?
No, they are not kicked out. And just know, just because you sign up for hospice, you have not signed, this death sentence of
No.
6 months or less.
Yep.
For example, even just this last week, we had a lady that she even qualified what we call GIP, which is a general inpatient in a hospital setting,
Right.
which means you're not even stable enough to leave the hospital. Okay. This woman went from being GIP appropriate. Well, she got stable. You don't really qualify to be in the hospital anymore. She went to a skilled nursing facility. We still followed her. Okay. She's in there. She's still not meeting. Now she's not meeting criteria for skilled nursing. She went home. We continue to follow her. And God bless her, we ended up discharging her this past week because she's no longer meeting criteria. So it just goes to show sometimes people just need the extra love and attention wrapped around them to have all these symptoms managed, and they might even not even qualify anymore. So what happens is when someone first qualifies, again, we're talking about that 6 months or less to live, that is a 90-day benefit period. So after that first 90 days, our physician's going to review everything, make sure you still qualify. Another 90 days, we're going to check and see if you still qualify. And then after that, it's unlimited. Every 60 days, we are going to take a peek and see if you still qualify. You could technically be on hospice for years.
Sure.
It all depends on where you are in your journey when you start the hospice.
My experience with some of those clients that you have in hospice that may be participating with the services for an extended period of time, they may have a level of a dementia that there is no magic number. So
No.
yes, the disease, the diagnosis could result in your passing within 6 months, but you could be on hospice for years.
Yes.
And why would someone want to be on hospice?
Yes, that is a great question. Truly, it's no big secret. Most people would like to stay in their homes.
Yes.
People really don't want to have to go to a skilled nursing facility. I mean, they are there. They serve their purpose. There is a reason to go to a skilled nursing facility for sure. But if you can wrap hospice around you, then you're more likely to be able to stay at home. You're going to have more love and attention. Even financially, it makes sense because we're going to be covering all your durable medical equipment, medications.
So bed,
Yes.
bedside commode, appropriate wheelchairs. What are they called? Broda chairs?
Yes,
Is that right?
there's Broda chairs, risers for over the toilet.
Right. And all that's paid for.
All that's paid
So
for.
what's the program that pays for that?
Yes,
Diana?
Medicare. So this is something that hasn't been messed with yet, thankfully.
Everything else is in
I
turmoil.
know.
That one's still
and
there.
it can get so confusing. So again, with my experience with skilled nursing, you really learn there's a lot of different options for Medicare. Some people are opting for those Humanas and Aetnas and the different programs. What's so great with hospice is it doesn't matter if you choose Humana or Aetna, it reverts back to traditional Medicare when it comes to that hospice service. So we're going to be in network for that.
So technically, somebody could privately pay for hospice, but
Sure.
frankly, they're not privately paying. It's
No.
Medicare is paying. For
No. Yes. Yeah.
So how, aside from that, and maybe that's the sole determining factor, that 6 month life expectancy, are there other factors that you're looking at or that are assessed when somebody is determined to be, whether they are or not appropriate for hospice care?
Yeah. So, for instance, you even brought up dementia. Sometimes people have this, dementia diagnosis, but they don't qualify quite yet.
Yep.
And it's because we've had this happen. My goodness, they have so much care already wrapped around. They have, home care there 9 hours a day. They're in a great routine. They're not in any pain. Like they're just really they're in this. They have dementia, but it's being well managed. So in those situations, we still encourage you have this conversation because why not be educated before you need it?
That's the key. The education and understanding what resources are out there.
Yes.
Don't wait until it breaks my heart.
Yes.
When people avail themselves of the benefits of hospice shortly before they pass.
I know.
And they could have had such a much better experience
Yes.
had they been involved a little sooner.
Yes. When I first came on, it's just perfect. Again, that's why it can range from some people pass away that day
Yep.
to years.
Yep.
And so, again, I have a lot of experience in healthcare and working with seniors. And when I first started with Heart to Heart, I was blown away at just the love that these nurses and aides and everyone can give your loved one. Again, working these places where people are spread thin, you know, and I know they want to hold your mom's hand and rub her back for an hour, but there's no time for that. So why not have this extra love and attention for your loved one? It just makes total sense.
Without a doubt. Is there a typical demographic or age for your hospice clients?
I don't know what the average is right now. So with our company, we don't take pediatrics. There are companies that take pediatrics. So we truly are we're just the senior population personally.
All right.
Yeah.
What geographic areas does Heart to Heart
Yeah.
service?
So our headquarters is in Plano, Texas. We are just over 20 years old. We're the largest privately owned hospice company. So we service Texas and then all of Indiana and in Michigan as well. Yeah.
Excellent. So our listeners for WOWO, you're definitely servicing everybody in the WOWO area.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. And we're always partnering with different, again, kind of going back to that piece of people wanting to stay home. Most of the time when we're helping people in their home, we're partnering with other home care agencies. So we just work in tandem, try to wrap around and give as much coverage for that loved one as possible.
So to our listeners, if you care to reach out to Diana or someone else from Heart to Heart, you may call them at 260-328-3140. That's 260-328-3140. Diana, if someone does reach out to you, what should they expect first? What's going to happen after they reach out to Heart to Heart?
Yeah, truly, they'll probably first just have a conversation with me. I'm going to touch base, and we're really just going to have a conversation about what it's all about. Just this education piece, and we move as quickly as you want to move. Hospice looks any way you want it to look. Sometimes people just want to meet with me one-on-one, not have that loved one present because they might be uncomfortable to ask those hard questions in front of their loved one. So we're going to work at the pace that that person wants to. Let's say we have this conversation, seems like it's something that you want to move forward with. Then our nurse will assess. We're going to ask for information from that primary care physician because it's really helpful and to be the most productive during that assessment if we can have something on paper for our nurse to really look through as far as just diagnoses, a basic history and physical, face sheet, med list.
So you've mentioned nurse, you've mentioned some other care providers. So let's assume that someone does become a hospice client. Do you say client or patient?
Patient. Client. We use both.
So once that patient is with you, what should they expect? What type of services should they look forward to receiving? Educational pieces should they look forward to receiving? What happens next?
Yeah. So the basic look of hospice is, again, I want to reiterate, it looks any way you want it to look. At the very minimum, it would be a nurse coming out once a week. Maybe you're just kind of, I don't want to keep going to the doctor. I want to make sure someone's just really kind of keeping their eye on me. So a nurse could come out once a week, do vitals, do kind of a skin check. It could just be very basic like that. I always encourage when you first come on services, at least meet everybody that's involved. So why not put a face with a name? Because we do have a social worker. Social worker can help with, all these funeral arrangements, really understanding all your resources. It's one of these things where you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Maybe you could have been tapping into something a long time ago. So meet the social worker, tap into, that experience. And then we have a chaplain. Doesn't mean that they're reading scripture to you, with, again, a lot of times it's just another person to have some quality time with. So can really tap into wherever you are in your journey. Then we have our aides and our nurses and it's a whole team of folks.
So the nurses, when they're coming into the home, are they sorting medications? Are they monitoring what has been taken, what meds you may need to have if you're experiencing discomfort or pain? Yeah,
for sure. So with the nurse coming in, again, if you're in your home, then it's truly it's either like that person's spouse or daughter that's still the one responsible for making sure the loved one gets their medications. So our nurse is staying on top of like looking at the supply, seeing if there's anything we need to order. We're available 24/7, but people have to understand that we're not sitting in the home 24/7.
Right. And that's a point. I've heard that as well. That people have a notion that hospice, if I have hospice, I'm going to have attendants in the home 24 hours a day,
Right.
365 days a year.
Yes.
And so when you were talking about partnering or working with
Yes.
other agencies, that's where the other agencies
Yes,
come
for
in.
sure. Yeah. So it's just kind of a team effort at that point. And again, going back to being, we're available 24/7. I do love like our office phone number. That is the number people call during business hours or at 3 a.m. in the morning. Let's say you're like, oh my gosh, I should have asked this. And it's 3 a.m. Call. Like you're not waking someone up out of a slumber. It is their shift to be manning the phone. Like give them a call at 3 a.m. Ask for that nurse to come out.
All right. So if that call is made at 3
Yes.
there's a nurse
Yes.
that's on staff that's
Yes.
ready to roll
Yes.
and answer those questions.
If there was an emergency, you would call. We want you to call us first.
Yes.
Because again, going back to the whole idea is to avoid going back to the emergency department, avoid going to the hospital. Call us first, and we're going to coach you through that. Maybe we do say call an ambulance, but call us first because again, we're using that Medicare benefit. And if you end up going to the hospital, we don't want you incurring a bill. We're using that Medicare benefit.
Sure.
So we're going to walk you through it, send a nurse on their way. And just to touch base too, once you're on hospice, you're still in control. I mean, if you qualify, you should stay on hospice, but it's your right to revoke services.
Of course.
You can stop anytime.
So when people are terminating services
Yes.
for whatever reason, after they've enrolled with hospice,
Yes.
why are you typically seeing that?
Yes. Because let's say there is something, I mean, there could be an emergency. God forbid your dad falls out of bed. It looks like he has a broken leg.
Right.
Okay. The daughter can be like, yeah, dad, it looks like he has a broken leg. We're all about being comfortable. It's not going to be comfortable to have a broken leg.
No.
Yes, we're going to encourage you. Yes, go to the hospital, get the leg, placed, So you're revoking services. Let's take care of whatever acute just happened and then come back on services.
So it isn't a situation where once you've enrolled in hospice, you can't receive treatment for anything.
No. And on a lesser level, even antibiotics. God forbid. If your mom gets a UTI, don't you want her to have antibiotics? We're not going to make her suffer,
No.
So it's about being comfortable.
That's a good point. I think that's a misconception that I hear from people as well. If I go on hospice, I can't receive any care.
No,
that's
like
not
you're
the
just
case.
giving up. It is not giving up. We're trying to give you more care. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about end of life and passing is natural.
Yes.
It's going to happen to all of us.
Yes.
So if you're in control of your own destiny, right, and you're a decision maker in that, and what the end of your life looks like, you are actively participating in making those decisions, bringing in a hospice agency like Heart to Heart. You are in control of your environment, in control of the end of your life, and making it the most positive experience possible during a very sad time. It can be very sad. But reaching out and working with agencies like Heart to Heart, it's really fundamental and it's key. It's key.
Just that quality of life.
For sure. As a reminder, Nugen Law represents clients in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. If you hear something today in our broadcast which resonates with you, an area in which we may be able to help, please call Nugen Law at 260-925-3738. Speak with one of our intake specialists and schedule a meeting for either our Fort Wayne or Auburn locations. You're also encouraged to see us online at www.nugenlaw.com. You've been hearing Diana speak today from Heart to Heart. If you care to reach out to Diana or someone else from Heart to Heart, you may call them at 260-328-3140, 260-328-3140. Also, Nugen Law is presenting a free seminar on August 15th between 1 and 5 p.m. here in Fort Wayne with a deeper dive into how you can be sure to preserve your dignity and protect your money, with topics like asset preservation, securing benefits to provide payment for your care as you age, care management as you age, estate planning and elder law, please call 260-925-3738. Diana should be at that event as well as one of our vendors, so you'd have an opportunity to meet Diana, meet myself, and other members of the Nugen Law team. So, Diana, you mentioned earlier one's life expectancy 6 months or less in order to qualify for hospice. To reiterate, if their life expectancy is beyond that, it isn't that you pull those benefits.
No, not at all. Again, it's just a matter of our physician just continuously, monitoring, seeing if they still qualify. And then also to that point, let's say you do reach out and you don't qualify quite yet. Again, at least get this education, and now you're on our radar, okay? Right. So you reach out, we're like, gosh, really, Mom doesn't qualify quite yet. But if you see X, Y, or Z, give us a call again. So at least now we're going to stay in touch with you, and we're still going to coach you. Even you're not even on services, but we're still going to be available for you.
Well, I think you've made an excellent point, which is educate yourself early.
Yes.
Not that you can't help in a crisis situation.
No, right.
You can. And I will tell you, I've been amazed. If you call Heart to Heart and you're needing a bed or you're needing some of those things to help at home, how quickly it happens. It is within hours. It is that day, the next day, and they are flying into motion. It's that fast.
It is our goal, day of. If we get a referral, we want to turn around that day.
But the ideal is not to have to fly.
Yes.
Because, yes, it is possible to do it. But to really receive the full benefits of being a hospice recipient, they want to reach out to you early. And when my clients are actively engaged in addressing end-of-life matters, they're actively participating and making a decision. I do want to work with Heart to Heart. I do want to have care in my home. If I can remain in my home until I pass, I want to do that. Now, how do I lay the groundwork to do it? It does not mean that I'm accepting that I'm passing tomorrow, but I am actively involved in that process and participating in the decision making.
Yeah, a big piece with hospice that I love as well is because I feel like it's the only benefit where it's not just for that patient. Hospice is for the entire family.
So let's talk about too after someone passes.
Yes.
Your services are done at that moment?
No. So we follow people for 13 months.
Okay.
We want to be with you during every first after someone passes, that first Christmas, that first Easter, anniversary, holiday. We want to be there to support you for that entire year after someone passes. And again, that even looks any way you want it to look. Maybe you're one that you want to be part of a grief support group. We will help you with that. Or maybe you just want to have that card every month or just a phone call. So any way you want it to look, for 13 months, we're there to support you.
Mm-hmm. So what does that support look like for the extended family members?
Yeah. So again, it's phone calls, it's letters. We have memorial services too. So a couple more memorial services a year. You can come out to that. We released Butterflies a couple months ago. So again, as much involvement as you want. Some people are a little more private. So it just depends on what you're looking for.
You mentioned earlier about the different providers from hospice that may come to your home or that you may have resources with. Let's go through those.
Sure.
Nursing.
Yep.
Attendant care. Chaplain services. Social worker. You, right?
Yes.
Community outreach.
Yes.
So let's talk about each of those and how they play a role with that hospice client, hospice patient.
Yeah. So again, the nurse is making sure that they're doing the vitals, any type of skin check on a regular basis.
So why is that relevant?
Because we want to stay ahead of anything. Right. We want to stay ahead of pain. Right. And so kind of on that note, too, if I could share, we have something called a red flag program. So let's say mom's on services. We really get to know her. Our nurse comes out doing vitals, and she just seems a little more confused that day. And so we do calls as a office. We have calls twice a day, and we're literally talking about our patients and just things that everyone needs to know. All of a sudden, we're on the call. Our nurse Sherry can say, "Gosh, I saw Carolyn, and she just wasn't herself. She's a little more confused. I want to put her on red flag. Maybe she has a UTI going on or something." Red flag means we're going to make sure that we are seeing you even up to 2 RN visits a day till we figure out why she's acting a little different. So we'll go ahead and get that urine sample, test it. Yep, she has a UTI. Antibiotic has been ordered. She started it. She's off of red flag. So that's just one of the things that, again, staying ahead of symptoms before things get out of control.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment. That's why I think understanding the baseline of the patient, who they are, the earlier you know the baseline, you can see this is a deviation.
Subtle.
This is a deviation from baseline. Mom is not normally confused. Mom is normally coherent and in the moment, and all of a sudden something's changed. So you as a hospice provider, you understand who they were, and you see a sudden change, red flag, you call them. That's great. But that's encouraging people to really reach out earlier rather than later.
Right, for sure. So there's a relationship, and you actually know each other.
Yep.
And then the aides, gosh, a big piece of the aides, a lot of times they're doing that shower schedule. Like, that's a big piece of what they do. And it doesn't mean they won't do a little, like, light housekeeping and things, too.
Bathing, I think people don't appreciate until they're helping someone bathe.
Yeah.
It is a challenge.
Yes.
It is a workout.
Who's more wet, you or me, like afterwards. But and kind of on that line too, why not bring in hospice and allow the spouse to continue to be the spouse and not the caregiver?
The child to be the child.
Yes. Keep those relationships the way they're supposed to be and let the caregivers be the caregivers.
Right. So having those attendants in the home, I know that the Nugen Law clients appreciate having hospice clients in the home, bathing, looking out for those odds and ends that they may need to make them most comfortable. You make a great point. You're allowing the spouse to be the spouse. You're allowing the child to be the child. The child isn't bathing their dad or bathing their mom, and that's not what they want to do.
No.
It's, not that they don't rise to the occasion.
Right.
But when you can get that help without cost, right? It's paid for through Medicare. Why would you not take advantage of it?
No, it's silly.
So let's talk about the chaplain services. How do chaplain services relate to the hospice clients?
So, I mean, truly, the broad term is spiritual coordinator.
Okay.
Again, I think that sounds a little more general.
Yes.
It doesn't make people feel like, a lot of times when we're having our conversation, we're like, would you like, the chaplain to come out? No. Like, they're so worried it's going to turn into just like a church service.
Right.
Again, we know our audience. I mean, they're so good at just reading where you're at and just meeting you where you're at. It's just having that conversation. Sometimes it's easier for someone to be open with someone they don't really know quite as well. Maybe they don't want to share all their ins and outs with their spouse or their daughter. Maybe they want that third party. So,
and then your social social work services.
So important. A big piece the social worker does, and I always encourage this, you're at home and the spouse is helping to care, or the daughter. Medicare also helps us. We can pay for a respite stay. So again, there's this caregiver burnout. Yeah, we're there to support you, but there's a reality, like that spouse is there 24/7. The social worker, a big thing they do is help coordinate that with a skilled nursing facility. So I always encourage people to meet that social worker, let that social worker work on that for you. It's a 5-day respite stay. It's a good taste to see what it would be like, because honestly, sometimes it gets to the point where it's not safe to be home. We want to honor your wishes, but we're also there to give you some sound advice.
I say, so long as it makes sense to be at home and it's safe and it's appropriate, of course we want you to be at home. But if at some point it doesn't make sense, what are our alternatives? So you have a social worker on staff.
Yes. And again, just guide into any other services in the area.
Diana, what are you most proud of in working with Heart to Heart?
Oh my goodness. I mean, the staff is absolutely amazing. Hospice is a calling. You just don't see that hospice nurse being rude or, gosh, like I just can't wait to get through the day. Hospice folks are different folks. They're called for it, and they're just so loving.
It is corny as it sounds, as trite as it sounds. You either have the heart for the work or you don't. And if somebody's there for the paycheck, worst job in the world.
Yes.
If you appreciate your role with the client and enjoy it, it's you're being paid to do something that really it's who you are to your soul.
They feel like it's their calling.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
Yeah, super proud of that.
My experience has been that a lot of our clients are motivated to contact us for help when they see that a loved one or a friend of the family has lost their money, their life savings. They need to sell their home, sell the farm after entering a nursing home or memory care unit. And they don't want that same thing to happen to them or their parents. It's always heartbreaking to me when I hear stories of that mom, dad, grandma, etc. ran through their retirement, sold their home. So this never needed to happen. Our job at Nugen Law is to make sure that that doesn't happen to our clients. As a reminder, we represent clients in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. If you hear something in today's broadcast which resonates with you, an area in which we may be able to help, give us a call, 260-925-3738. As a reminder, if you needed to reach out to Diana at Heart to Heart, something that she said today that resonated with you, that you think would be appropriate for you to get some help for. Diana, what was your phone number? I'm putting you on the spot. I had it written down, and
I know. I'm always, yeah. I'll probably just share the office number is 260-203-5441, because there are a few of us in the area. So depending on what area you live in, I'd like to just share the office number. So again, 260-203-5441. This is that number I spoke about that is appropriate for during the office hours and after.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Diana. I look forward to meeting you at our appointment with Nugen Law and to speak with you, our listeners, next weekend here on WOWO, Saturday at 9 a.m. Enjoy your weekend.
You've been listening to Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. For more information, log on to NugenLaw.com or email help@NugenLaw.com. Nothing stated in today's program should be considered as legal advice, should not be considered as having created an attorney-client relationship between show host and guests and any listener. Nugen Law is not liable for anything that happens as a result of a listener relying on provided information as legal advice. The content is for informational purposes only.